In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you the 10 factors you need to consider when deciding whether or not to change your friend group. Hi guys, I'm Ivor. I'm a university student who changed friend groups 3 times in high school and have finally found my people now. Across all of my 3 friend groups, I'm not friends with a single one of those people anymore. So, if this sounds like you, then stay tuned to the end to see all 10 reasons. The first situation where you should probably change your friend group is if your friend group doesn't like you. This is easily the most obvious one. I mean, come on. If your friend group doesn't like you, you should leave, right? Unfortunately, this isn't as simple as it seems for a lot of us. I know I was told by my first and second friend groups that I should leave. They straight up just told me I should leave, and I still stayed for months after that. So if that sounds like you, or if you just get the vibe that your friends aren't really getting along with you, then it's probably best to seek out some new friends. The way you can tell that your friends aren't necessarily interested is if they stop talking when you come over to them, if they make group chats that you're not in, if they're just explicitly telling you they don't want you to be there, if they kind of laugh at you behind your back and you notice it, if they're kind of inviting you as an afterthought, so maybe they add you to group chats, everyone's already there, they've already made plans, and they've just added you at the last minute. And just stuff like that, where you can kind of tell that there's a group and then there's you, so you're not really vibing with them. Now, in that situation, it's obviously better, as hard as it is, it's better to try and find a new friend group. And it might seem like you don't know anyone else and that you're kind of just taking a big leap, but I can promise you that the other groups will probably be better than you think, and you will never know how good the other options are until you really get to know them and take that leap. The second reason is if you don't actually like them. So if you don't like your friend group, why would you stay with them? Again, this one, it's as with all of these, it's a lot harder to actually take the action and leave the group, but it's a step that has to be taken, because the longer you stay with the group that you're not really enjoying being around, the more opportunities you're missing out on, and the longer you're going without having some really close friends that you can rely on in tough situations. And you might not even notice how bad your current friend group is until you leave and find some better ones. So I would encourage you, if you're in this situation and you're not fully sure that you really enjoy spending time with your current friend group, then I would consider at least just trying and hanging out with other people as well as people in your current friend group. Branching out, going and talking to some other people at lunch. I promise you, your current friend group isn't going to care if you just spend one lunch away with another group. And you might meet some amazing people that you like a lot more than your current group. For that, there's lots of different reasons why you might not like your current group, and they're all valid. So you might just not share the sense of humor. In that case, you might be able to find some other people that share that humor. You might not share future goals. That's an important one. You need to find people who are aspiring to the same places, because how are you going to be friends with them for a long time if you're going down different paths? You need to find people who have the same interests as you, so you can actually go, when you plan activities and hangouts, you're actually doing something that everyone wants to do. And also, if your friend group is just a really, if there's a lot of bullying or something like that, or a lot of teasing, and that's not really your thing, then you should probably change friend groups, even if they're accepting you. If you don't necessarily want to be around all that bullying and teasing, then I'm sure you can find another group who's not like that. The third situation where you should change friend groups is if you share the same interests as them, you share the same humor, but you don't share the same goals. Now, I've already touched on this a little bit, but ultimately, it's good to have people where you can hang around and enjoy being around them. But if you're going to go down a different path in the future to them, then it's better surrounding yourself with someone who is going down the same path as you or is hoping to. That way, you can, first of all, just be more motivated and work harder towards that goal. And secondly, you'll have a much longer lasting friendship and potentially a deeper one as well. Now, that being said, it is important to have people you can joke with and hang and enjoy being around, as well as those deeper relationships. So in this situation, you may not want to just leave straight away, but stay in that friend group, but also explore around and see if you can find some other people who share the same goals. You could do this by joining activities. If you're in university, join clubs. That's a great way to do it. Another reason, which I've also kind of touched on, is if you think they're a bad influence for you. This is kind of similar to the last one. If you really find these people fun to be around, and maybe you even share the same goals in the future, but there's just certain behaviors that you really don't like about them. Maybe they bully people, maybe they do drugs. With these kind of behaviors, toxic behaviors, you're probably going to be influenced by them. So the first step here is you should probably just see if you can get your friends to stop or at least cut back on those behaviors. But if that isn't happening, which it probably won't, to be fair, then you should consider trying to find some people who are more aligned with your interests. Then again, this isn't a super urgent one though. So this would be the kind of thing where you just look for other people and be on the constant lookout for new friends, but still be friends with these other people. And just try to keep in mind that their behaviors aren't necessarily good. I mean, they say you're the product of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So even if you have to really make a conscious effort to not take on these negative behaviors if you're with people who are constantly doing them and normalizing them. Number 5, they're exploiting you. Your friends might be constantly asking you to buy them food. They might be always just asking you to come out with them, and generally just not respecting you and your choices as a person. If this is happening, this is kind of a sign of number 1, that they aren't actually your friends. So this one, it probably seems obvious to you guys, as with all of these, but there's a big difference between it being obvious and actually going out and changing friend groups, which is the hard step. So I'm hoping that this video will help you realize these things, because sometimes it's easier to just push them away into the back of your mind, and here I'm reminding you of them and reminding you to take action and not stick around with a friend group that you're not actually going to make meaningful lifetime connections with, or at least have some really good enjoyment and fun times with, if not lifetime connections. For number 6 through 10, I'm going to give some bad reasons that people say that you should change friend groups, where maybe you actually shouldn't change friend groups. The first bad reason to change friend groups is if you think your friend group isn't popular enough. Popularity, guys, it doesn't matter, okay? I can tell you right now, I'm only 2 years out of high school, but all the people who post on Instagram who seem to be the most successful have come from all ranges of popularity. One of the most popular guys is now a successful entrepreneur, but some guys who got bullied through all of high school are now also successful entrepreneurs. And there's plenty of people who seem to be really successful other than entrepreneurs, obviously, working boring 9-to-5s or studying uni and working a job. Beyond this, just caring about popularity, even if it does matter, you're not going to be able to change how much a certain group of people likes you. You can improve skills, but ultimately you are who you are, and trying to fit in with a group that you don't share the same interests and values with, even if they're popular, isn't a good path to finding your people who you're going to be able to build meaningful connections with for a much longer time period. I plan to make a whole video talking about popularity in the future, so make sure you subscribe to stay tuned to see that. The second bad reason to change friend groups is if your family is trying to pressure you into changing. Now, this one can be valid if your friends are delinquents, let's say. Then it could be worth listening to your parents, but your parents could also be trying to force their values on you, where you should be trying to discover yourself and not just follow the path of least resistance set out by your parents. This takes a lot of self-reflection to see if your parents trying to force an ideology on you that you don't agree with, or are your friends actually just not a good influence on you and they're holding you back from achieving your true potential. So this one, it could be a good reason or it could be a bad reason, and it's up to you to really think about that and decide for yourself. Another terrible reason to change friend groups is if you feel like you're superior or above your current friends. Now, I can tell you right now, no one is above everyone else as a whole. Generally, maybe a little bit, but not a lot. It's really just everyone is different. So when you're thinking that you're above your friend groups here, it's actually more like here, or maybe here, or here, even here. You really have to take a step back and think, remove your ego from the situation and think, is this that I'm so much better than my friends, or am I actually just full of myself and I need to get my ego in check? Now, at this point, some of you might be thinking, okay, yeah, some of this, I guess it applies to me, but I'm only a few months out from graduating school. Now, in this situation, let's say you're 2 months out from graduating. If you're in a friend group that you can't see yourself being friends with for a long time, then you're probably not going to see them after school anyway. So there's really, if you stay with them, then you'll get to the end of high school and then you'll stop seeing them and you won't have made any friends from high school. Or you can, 2 months out, you can split off, try and find some new friends in that 2 months, and if you don't, then that doesn't matter because you'll be in the same position as you were before with no friends. Or maybe there's a good chance you'll have made some friends in this other group or with some other people, and in this case you're much better off. I made this mistake in my final year. I enjoyed being around my friend group, but I could tell that we weren't going to make any meaningful connections, and I just knew deep down that after we graduated I wasn't going to see them again. And I saw them maybe one time after graduation and I haven't seen them since. So I wish, looking back, that I'd followed this advice I know now, and I'd just spent the time to look around and see who else was out there and be open to new friendships. And maybe it wouldn't have worked out, but maybe it would have, and I would have been in a better situation having just graduated and not spent the next 3 months sitting at home with no friends. Another thing which I haven't mentioned is that friend groups aren't all black and white like I've been saying. I've simplified it to imagine that there's all your friends in one friend group and then all these other people in another group who you're not friends with at all. That's probably not the case. You're probably mixed in and out. Your friends are friends with different friends. There's no solidified group. There might be the people that you hang out with at lunch, and then maybe outside of school you see people from a couple other groups, and maybe some breaks. The group mixes a little bit. That's obviously very common. But in that case, all the same stuff still applies. If the kind of fuzzy group that you're mainly a part of is has any of these bad things that I've talked about, then it's going to be worth changing to a different group. All that means is it's a little bit easier because you already have these existing connections. That being said, if your friend group is really toxic and you're just moving to a close by group that has a lot of connections, you may actually want to move even further away to a group that you're completely foreign to and you don't know anyone from. And that's totally fine. You might be better off moving to a closer group where you already have some mutual connections, and then being friends with their friends, or exploring some new connections, completely new people while you're in that other group. So it is more complex than I've assumed, than I've been saying, but in principle, the reasons why you want to leave your main group, the main people you hang out with, are all the same as what I've said. This stuff also applies to just a single friend. If you have one friend that's toxic, then maybe you shouldn't be friends with that person anymore. If one of your friends doesn't share your goals, then maybe don't do that. There's also a special scenario where you could have just one or two people in a group who you really don't get along with, but everyone else is fine. In this situation, that becomes a little bit more complicated, and I kind of experienced a bit of this in my second friend group, where there was a couple good people and a lot of bad ones. And I wanted to stay friends with those good people, and I was worried that if I left the group, I wouldn't be able to do that. In this situation, my advice would be that you can always maintain these relationships with the good people without being in that friend group if you are truly close and if you put in effort. A lot of maintaining relationships is just effort. And it might seem like a lot of the time, if you're not hanging out with these people, then you're not going to be friends with them. But if you really are good friends with these people, and you put in effort, you will stay friends, trust me. Even if you're not seeing them as much. The frequency of seeing a person doesn't have as much impact as we think. It's really about making those times where we do see them really impactful and actively reaching out and sharing that we still want to be in their lives. So if you have one or two people in the group who you get along with and the rest you don't, then I would leave. Now, what if it's the opposite? If you have one or two people that you don't like and the rest of the group you do like? In this situation, it depends how bad the people are. It might be worth putting up with them to hang out with the group, but in this situation, I would make sure I voice my concerns because sometimes the other people, even if they're not actively being mean to you or anything, the fact that they're bystanding that either means that they haven't noticed that you're upset with it, or more likely, they're just bystanders and they're not really your friends either. So in this situation, even if there's only a couple people who are actually directly being mean to you, it could be a sign that you need to change friend groups. And this can be a difficult thing to realize, but this is another situation where I would again just explore those other connections you might have made, try and find some new people, and that might make you realize how much better it is than your current group. You can't do that if you don't see what else is out there and explore. Now, if you think your friends genuinely if you genuinely think you are friends with most of the people in the group, but there's just one or two people who you don't get along with, if you just don't get along with them, then that's fine. You're not going to get along with everyone in the group. It's okay to have people that you aren't really friends with. But if you actively dislike these people because they're being mean to you, or they're bullying you in some way, emotionally or physically, some way that you just don't like, this is one of those things where your friends, there's a slight chance they may not have noticed, but they probably have noticed and they're just being bystanders. Now, if you have the people who you just kind of neutral to, you don't really like, but you like the rest of the friend group, it is probably a good idea to still be friendly to these people and make an effort to be nice to them, because maybe you know, you might not like some people, but your other friends might like them. And if you don't like them, then that just splits the group. But if you get along with them, you make it so much easier for everyone else to include you in social hangouts. You're not always as important as you think you are. Your friends might be just as attached to those people as you. And you can't assume that you're more important to the group than other people. So you have to make that effort to still be friendly to people you don't necessarily like in groups. For example, if there's a hypothetical scenario, let's say you're new to a friend group and you're really close friend, you become really close friends with a couple of them, but there's a couple of people who you just haven't really connected with. But let's say in this situation you're new. If these other friends are trying to organize and they're trying to work out if they should include you, if you're only friends with, let's say, 2 out of 5 people, you're only going to have 2 out of 5 votes to include you in any upcoming activity, and that's probably not going to be enough. So you really need to be friends with a certain amount of people in a group. Now, if you don't think that group is for you because you're only friends with a small amount of people, then obviously fair enough, you can probably find a better group and just be friends with just a couple people in that group. Like I was saying earlier, it's not so black and white. You can be friends with people from a whole bunch of different groups. But if it's just a few and you're friends with the majority, being friendly to those other people when you're new to the group still increases your likelihood that you're going to get accepted and invited places, because you'll have an overwhelming majority of people who are going to agree to you hanging out, and you're not going to have anyone objecting actively to inviting you somewhere. Another thing you might be thinking is, if I change friend groups, then there's going to be a big period where I don't have any close friends. And this might be true, unless you're in a situation where your friend group is actively being toxic to you and it's reducing your happiness. You might be better off staying with your friends and looking around for another group. As for the actual details of how to change friend groups, I go into that in another video. You can see that on screen now. Thanks for listening.